The lights blazed down on the debate stage, so bright it made the sweat glisten at Trump's hairline. DJ Vance sat beside him, hands folded in the practiced calm of a man who believed he'd already won. Jasmine stood alone at the far podium, her fingers lightly tapping her notes as if she were daring them to interrupt her. The moderator hadn't even finished the first question when Trump leaned forward, voice erupting across the stage. "You talk about honesty," he shouted, stabbing a finger in her direction. "But you can't even admit your own failures." The audience gasped. Camera shutters clicked like machine guns. Vance didn't wait for the hush to return. He turned his cold blue eyes on Jasmine and nodded once, his voice like polished steel. "He's right," Vance said, each word measured. "You pretend you're above us, but you're just another politician hiding behind a script." Jasmine didn't flinch. Her gaze swept over them both, two men convinced they could break her with volume and contempt. "You're very loud," she said softly, "but volume isn't the same as substance." Trump slapped his palm on the table, the microphone whining from the impact. "Answer the question," he barked. "Tell them why you lied." Vance's smile was thin and predatory. "Or are you going to play the victim again?" Jasmine stepped forward, her voice low but carrying to the last row. "You don't get to talk about honesty," she said, "when every document in this folder proves you're terrified of it." She lifted the file high enough for the cameras to see the bold red label, "Unreleased Evidence." And in that instant, every viewer at home knew this wouldn't be a debate, it would be a reckoning. Trump leaned over the table, his face red, voice booming through every microphone. "You think you're so righteous," he shouted. "You think waving a folder makes you credible?" Jasmine didn't move. Her fingers slipped beneath the tab, lifting the cover just enough for a corner of the first page to show. Vance tilted his head, that same cold smirk still etched across his face. "Go ahead," he said, voice slick as oil. "Open it. Let everyone see you're bluffing." The audience held its breath. Reporters in the front row leaned forward, pens frozen mid-sentence. Jasmine unfolded the first sheet, the paper trembling slightly in her hand, but her voice never wavered. "This," she announced, holding the document so the cameras could zoom in, "is a certified financial disclosure showing a $2.1 million transfer to a PAC connected to both of you." Trump's eyes darted to Vance, then back to Jasmine. "You're lying," he growled, but the crack in his voice betrayed him. "Prove it," Jasmine shot back, her tone like tempered steel. Vance's jaw flexed, his smile disappearing for the first time all night. "That transfer was perfectly legal," he snapped. Jasmine leaned in, her gaze locked on his. "Then why did you fight in court for 6 months to keep it sealed?" A murmur swept through the audience, a restless wave of disbelief and fascination. Trump slammed his palm on the table again. "This is a witch hunt. And yet," Jasmine said calmly, "you haven't denied the document is real." The moderator looked stricken, glancing between them as if silently praying for a break that would never come. And in that moment, every viewer understood. The folder held more than accusations. It held proof. Jasmine flipped the first page aside, revealing the second document beneath it. The camera zoomed so close that the header was perfectly clear. "Restricted correspondence, internal use only." Trump's nostrils flared. "You stole that," he barked, his finger stabbing the air like an accusation would be enough to erase the evidence. Vance leaned forward, voice harder than before. "This is exactly why people don't trust you," he spat. "You twist anything to fit your narrative." Jasmine didn't blink. "Then tell them what this is," she said, lifting the paper so every word was visible. A hush rolled over the stage, swallowing even the hum of the studio lights. "This," she continued, voice steady, "is an email chain confirming that both of you approved the transfer and ordered your teams to keep it out of public filings." Vance's mouth opened and closed, no sound emerging. Trump pounded the table so hard the microphone squealed. "Fake!" he roared, but no one flinched. The moderator swallowed, voice thin. "Mr. Trump, are you formally denying this email is authentic?" Trump's jaw worked, the muscle jumping at the edge of his cheek. "I'm denying it was illegal," he finally rasped. Vance found his voice, though it cracked under the weight of the cameras. "You don't understand the pressure we're under," he said, his gaze darting to Trump as if pleading for backup. Jasmine's eyes were unflinching. The pressure to hide the truth? No one spoke. Outside, the headline scrolled across every feed. Breaking, Jasmine Crockett reveals internal emails. Linking Trump and Vance to secret funds inside, the quiet felt like an indictment all its own. And in that moment, every viewer realized they had run out of denials, and she was only on page 2. Trump shoved his chair back so hard it screeched against the floor. He lurched to his feet, jabbing a finger at Jasmine. "You have no idea what you're playing with," he bellowed, his voice echoing in the rafters. Gasps rippled across the audience. A reporter in the front row nearly dropped her notepad. Vance's hands were clenched tight on the table, knuckles bone white. "You're trying to destroy reputations," he hissed, though his voice shook. "You're willing to burn everything down because you hate us." Jasmine calmly set the second document aside. "I don't hate you," she said, lifting her gaze to meet Vance's. "I just won't pretend you're untouchable." Trump's face had gone a mottled red. "Sit down," he snarled. "No," Jasmine replied, her voice level. A hush fell so total it felt alive. She reached into the folder again and pulled out a third sheet, thicker than the others, stamped with a government seal. "This," she announced, raising her voice just enough for the microphones to pick up every syllable, "is a signed affidavit from your former chief financial officer." Vance flinched visibly. Trump stopped mid-breath, his mouth frozen open. "It confirms," Jasmine continued, her hand steady as she held the paper aloft, "that you both authorized the transfers and instructed staff to mislabel them in quarterly reports." "No," Vance whispered, but it sounded more like a prayer than a denial. Trump tried to speak, but nothing came out. The moderator's pen slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. Outside, the headline flashed in blinding red. Breaking, Jasmine Crockett unveils signed affidavit, linking Trump and Vance to misreported funds. And in that instant, every person watching knew the real story had only just begun. Trump's hands balled into fists at his sides, his voice exploding across the stage. "This is a lie!" he roared, spittle catching the edge of the microphone. "This is a disgrace, and you will pay for it!" The moderator's mouth moved, but no words came. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every tremor of rage. Vance swallowed hard, his voice breaking as he tried to regain control. "This is out of context!" he sputtered, his eyes darting from the affidavit to Jasmine's steady gaze. "You're cherry-picking information to make us look corrupt." Jasmine took a step closer to the edge of the table, her voice unshaken. "Do you deny your CFO signed this document?" Trump slammed his palm down again, the sound as loud as a gunshot. "I deny that this is legitimate." "Then you should have no problem allowing a forensic review," Jasmine said evenly. Vance's face drained of color. "That's—" She cut him off, her voice rising above both of theirs. "Because I'm prepared to release not just this affidavit, but the entire supporting file. Hundreds of pages, depositions, email threads, wire records." A stunned hush rolled across the audience like a wave. Trump opened his mouth, but his voice failed him. Vance tried to steady his hands on the table. You won't do that," he whispered. Jasmine didn't blink. "Try me." Outside, the headline scrolled in relentless red. Breaking, Jasmine Crockett threatens full disclosure, Trump and Vance reeling. And in that moment, every viewer understood whatever they thought they were hiding was about to come out. Jasmine didn't look away as she unfolded the next document, her hand perfectly steady. The cameras captured every line of black ink, every official seal. "This," she said, her voice carrying to the last row of the audience, "includes transaction confirmations from 3 separate banks." Trump's mouth twisted into something between a grimace and a snarl. "If you think you can destroy me with paperwork," he spat, "you're delusional." Vance lowered his gaze to the table, shoulders tight as coiled wire. Jasmine ignored Trump's outburst. "Each of these records," she continued, holding the pages higher, "confirms the transfers were coordinated through an intermediary you both approved." "You don't know what you're doing," Trump growled, voice hoarse. "You're playing with fire." She turned her eyes on him, unblinking. "So are you!" A gasp rippled across the gallery as she set the documents down, fanning them across the polished wood. Vance didn't look up. His hands were clenched in his lap, knuckles white. "This is what you tried to hide," Jasmine said, her tone calm but edged with steel. "Not because you were protecting your donors, but because you were protecting yourselves." Trump leaned forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous rasp. "If you release that file, I swear I'll make sure you never work in this town again." Her eyes didn't waver. "And if you think threats scare me, you haven't been paying attention." Outside, the headline exploded in red. Breaking, Jasmine Crockett reveals bank records, Trump issues threat live. And in that moment, everyone watching knew he had finally run out of ways to silence her. Jasmine placed both hands on the stack of documents, her voice steady enough to silence the last murmurs in the gallery. "You spent months telling the public this was all fiction," she said, her gaze locked on Trump and Vance in turn. "You called me a liar. You called me unfit." Trump's lips pulled back from his teeth. "You're damn right," he hissed. "And when this is over, you'll wish you'd never—" She didn't flinch. "When this is over," she interrupted, her tone low but unbreakable, "the country will know exactly who you are." Vance pressed his palms to the table, as though he needed something solid to hold himself upright. His mouth opened, but no words came. Outside, the ticker scrolled relentlessly. Breaking. Jasmine Crockett declares full disclosure, Trump and Vance cornered. Jasmine turned, lifting the first few pages and holding them out for the cameras. "These documents," she continued, "will be sent to every major news outlet by the end of the day, every signature, every email, every dollar." Trump's voice cracked as he tried to shout. "You can't do that!" Her eyes didn't waver. "Watch me." A sharp, collective inhale rippled through the audience. Vance's shoulders sagged. He stared at the floor as if he could disappear into it. "You had a chance to come clean," Jasmine said, her voice steady. "You chose instead to call me weak." Trump's hands balled into trembling fists. "And tonight," she finished, "you learned that nothing is stronger than the truth." And in that moment, every viewer understood. The reckoning wasn't coming. It had already begun. Trump's face twisted, desperate and furious all at once. "You think you can just walk in here and destroy decades of work?" he roared, voice cracking. "You think people will believe your little stunt?" Jasmine didn't blink. "They won't have to believe me," she said, lifting the thick file again, "because they'll see the evidence themselves." Vance kept his gaze fixed on the table. He looked like a man watching his own reflection shatter. Trump gestured wildly, his hand slicing through the air. "This is nothing but a smear campaign," he bellowed, though his voice sounded thinner with every word. Jasmine took a slow breath, her tone calm and resolute. "While you were shouting," she said, "I was sending copies to every newsroom in the country." Gasps exploded across the gallery. The moderator's jaw dropped as he turned to the control booth, confirming what everyone already suspected. Outside, the headline pulsed in bright red. Breaking. Jasmine Crockett confirms evidence distributed to national media. Trump's shoulders jerked as if he'd been struck. You're finished," he rasped. "You'll never survive this." Jasmine stepped closer, voice low and unwavering. "If telling the truth ends my career, so be it. But at least I won't spend another day living a lie." Vance finally lifted his eyes. They were rimmed with something that looked like defeat. And in that instant, the entire chamber felt different, like the final piece had clicked into place. The truth was no longer a threat. It was a fact no one could ignore. Trump's hand fell limply to his side, his face pale beneath the bright studio lights. For the first time all night, he didn't try to shout over her. Vance's lips parted like he might attempt another defense, but no words came. He pressed a trembling hand to his forehead instead, staring at the desk as though he could vanish into it. Jasmine took a single step forward, her voice carrying to every corner of the auditorium. "You tried to drown me in noise," she said quietly, "because you thought if you screamed long enough, no one would notice you never answered the questions." Trump's eyes flickered up to meet hers, empty, searching, beaten. "You said I was weak," she continued, her gaze unwavering. "You said I was too afraid to stand here alone." Vance closed his eyes. The last of his composure slipped away like sand through his fingers. "And yet," Jasmine said, her voice soft but unbreakable, "I'm still standing." A hush deeper than any before settled over the stage. Even the cameras seemed to lean in, capturing the moment neither man could deny. Outside, the headline scrolled across every screen. Breaking, Jasmine Crockett delivers final statement. Trump and Vance silent. She let the quiet grow heavy. She didn't rush to fill it because she knew this was the sound of two men realizing they had nothing left to say,